What's up, everyone? My name's Justin. I'm with the Real Keeper Home Team here with eXp Realty, and welcome back to our channel, Everything Jackson Real Estate. Today's video, I'm gonna be doing the market update report for Mandarin as pertains to November of 2023. So we've been seeing a lot of changes this year, really especially the last couple months with rates at the highest they've ever been in October. Starting to see rates come down some as well though. So it's gonna be very important that you stay tuned as we go through this video to get a better idea of how things have impacted Mandarin. And before we get into this video though, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notified when we post more content like this. Our goal here is we want to help provide as much knowledge as possible about the city of Jacksonville and its areas, including Mandarin. And so definitely as we work to build this channel, every subscription we can get helps, and so we appreciate it at 100%. So we're now gonna get started with the Mandarin market update for November 2023. And like I said, we've seen a lot of changes, and so the biggest thing is how has that impacted the supply of homes, how's that impacted the amount of contracts, how's that impacted price and days on market. So we're gonna start off with going over the pen to list ratio. And this is gonna measure how many homes went under contract in relation to how many homes hit the market in November. And what we saw is we saw that 373 homes went under contract compared to 1,281 that were on the market. And that gave us a list to pen to list ratio of 29.1%, which is a little bit less than we saw last month. Overall though, that is still pretty good. It just means for every 10 homes in the market, 3 are going under contract relatively quickly. And the other 7 still could, it's just obviously they haven't gotten under contract yet. Now, we also see here that the most homes in the market as far as in a range were homes between $400,000 and $500,000. So that had the majority, the highest amount of homes in the market was homes in that price range. What we did also see is even though that was the range that had the most, the median list price was actually $500,000 and we'll call it $30,000. So what that tells us is there's more homes above 500 than below 500, even though the highest amount of homes in a specific price range was between 400,000 and 500,000. So definitely good to kind of key into to see how that goes month over month. And 530 is still a good number for the area. It makes sense that, it is where it is. Now, the next thing we're gonna look at is this graph here where it shows properties for sale and contracts pending. And what you see is obviously homes between 400,000 and 500,000 did have the most homes available, which kind of coincides with what we see here in this graph. And overall, it supersedes the amount of homes that are actually under contract. So what it does tell us is it tells us that if you're looking between $400,000 and $500,000, you will have many options, and therefore you will have the ability to potentially negotiate a little more than say if you were buying a home at $300,000, even $700,000, just because there's less homes available. Now we also see here that there was 1,945 contracts that closed in the last 6 months. It's a very healthy number, and the important thing with it is seeing what price point the median was for those homes. And what we saw was the price point was actually $485,000. So we're roughly $45,000 difference between what homes are selling for compared to what homes are listing for. So there is a bit of a discrepancy there, and ultimately at some point those numbers should start to come back a little bit closer to together. But if they do stay farther apart, what we'll probably see is the days on market start to increase some in future months. Now we also saw there was 448 homes that failed to sell. Failed to sell is huge, but is it really? Failed to sell, ultimately homes do fail to sell in any area, any location. There will always be homes that fail to sell. And sometimes it's something as simple as the seller just has second thoughts, or just maybe they had orders to go somewhere else and they ended up not having to actually go, and so they stayed near where they were at and they didn't have to sell their house anymore. It could also just mean they were priced high. It could also mean the condition didn't match the price. It could also just mean the realtor maybe didn't market it properly. So there's a lot of different reasons, but ultimately fail to sell is a good indicator, because if that number starts to increase in month over month, it could be a negative indicator for the market conditions for a specific area. But in this case, 448, good to monitor, but definitely not the end all be all as far as compared to last month, being a positive or negative. All right, so this next one is going to be kind of looking at days on market for the area. And really what we saw is the days on market for the last 6 months for homes that sold was actually 36 days on the market for that median price point of $485,000. So 36 days is a little bit longer time, a little bit longer than even the city of Jacksonville or Jacksonville Beach and Jacksonville Southside was for the last 6 months. And so part of that could just speak to the price point, a little bit higher barrier of entry for Mandarin, so therefore homes do sit a little bit longer. But at 36 days, it's a little bit longer than you want to have it, but still not awful. But here's the question, how's that compared to last month? Well, for the last month, we actually saw the median sale price was $488,000, and the days on market was 34. It's interesting. You may ask yourself, why is it interesting? Well, ultimately it's interesting because days on market for last month actually went down, but price also didn't go up very much at all. Typically, when days on market go down, price goes up. When days on market goes up, price goes down. However, ultimately, because it's still a very popular area, obviously we still did see increase in prices, but it was very, very minimal in relation to the fact that the days on market could go down. It just goes to show that to really see a huge difference one way or another on price as far as increases or decreases, you do have to see probably a much larger difference in days on market as far as month-over-month increase or decrease. And again, to speak to the fact this is a very desirable area, the median listed sales ratio is actually 99%. So again, sellers were getting 99% of what they were listing their house for from buyers. You can't beat that if you're a seller. Now as a buyer, you are still getting a great house, so it's not the end of the world, but as far as being able to negotiate, you may not have as much negotiating power as you would have liked. And we also see here too with the absorption rate for the area, it was actually 2.8 months of inventory for the last 6 months. 2.8 months of inventory, it just means that if no new homes hit the market, we'd be out of homes in less than 3 months in Mandarin. And ultimately, 2.8 months of inventory is still a very healthy seller's market. Until we go over 6 months of inventory, if we get there, it's gonna stay a seller's market for the foreseeable future. Now, what you're also gonna see here is you're gonna see that we had a pretty good drop in sold price for October. However, it has risen back up in November. And so the reason we saw that, and the reason we see a lot of times with these things, is interest rates. In October, interest rates hit the highest they had the highest they had hit in quite a long time. So what does that mean? It means that sellers had to take a bit of a haircut on their prices in October to be able to combat that. However, in November, some of those rates started to come down some. And so that's why in November, we did see prices start to level out back to where we had seen previous months. And that's overall a good indicator for you as a seller. For you as a buyer, it may mean you may have missed your window. It may mean that if you want to see those prices come down some again, you're gonna have to see rates go up again. And do you really want that? I wouldn't. I don't think it's worth it. The reason I say that is because there are other ways you can negotiate to, even if you have to pay the price the seller wants, there are ways to negotiate it to where you can still get a lower rate and therefore a lower payment. And ultimately you will accrue equity over time in the home. Now for median days on market, because of the fact that rates have come down some, that's why we're seeing days on market start to come down some as highlighted in November compared to October. And we even saw days on market higher in September. So we are seeing days on market start to really come down, and that'll be something that we'll monitor in future videos to see how that holds up with December, January, and February, 3 months that are normally a little bit slower. So that's obviously good to look at. Lastly, we are going to look at this table to see how each price range is being measured for absorption rate. Again, how many homes are out there? How long would it take for those homes for there to be no more homes if no new homes hit the market? Because it does gauge how much of a seller's market it really is. And what we see here is it's for the most part a pretty heavy seller's market, even up to about $900,000 for Mandarin. And what's interesting is you actually see between 900 and a million, there's actually quite a bit of inventory. They mean that buyers are just not as prevalent in that price point. But when you go over $1 million, you start to become more of a heavy seller's market again. So definitely interesting. And honestly, this does kind of go against what I myself was expecting. This is the beauty of it, is there's no crystal ball out there. If someone tells you, hey, I know what's gonna happen to the market, No, they don't. They are looking at different indicators. They're looking at different data points to determine what they think is going to happen, but it doesn't mean they know what's going to happen. And so ultimately, I was actually expecting us to see a little more yellow here, maybe even a little bit more orange and less red, due to where the rates ended up going to in October. So it's actually great if you're a buyer, if you're a seller right now, because there's still not a lot of inventory out there and prices have not gone down. And so if you are thinking about selling, it still is a good time. And if you're a buyer, it is also still a good time, because ultimately, while other buyers sit on the sideline and they wait for rates to come down, you can get into the house that you really want now with ways to get the payment as low as possible for you. And then ultimately, when rates are to come down again soon, you could always refinance. But the beauty of it is you're no longer having to compete against other buyers who are now back in the market because they were waiting on the sidelines for rates to come down. So that's going to end this market update video. If you have any questions as far as the market here in Mandarin, or if you have any questions as far as what I went over in this video, or anything I can do to help you with your home search or even to sell your house, my contact information is down below in the description of this video. Definitely feel free to reach out to me. You can schedule time on my Calendly. I have a link to that in my description. And ultimately, whether if you want to meet face-to-face, on a Zoom call, or just a normal phone call, we can do any of those, whatever works best for you and your family, because ultimately, I want to be able to help where I can, because again, who you work with does matter. So until next time, I'll see you guys again in the next video.